Well, just for the heck of it, I thought I'd give you a little update on this fuel pump. She's turning into a project. This is the old one. And the problem with it is both of these are just two poppet valves. Now, there's a few things simpler on a car than a fuel pump, a mechanical fuel pump. This runs on the cam, simply pulls that diaphragm up and down, and you got two one-way valves. You know, pretty simple. But like I say, both of these valves are leaking, so if the vehicle sits, it runs the gas back into the tank. That's why I was going to change the pump. So I bought that new pump, which is the same as my old pump. I mean, you look at the parts in there, they're interchangeable, with one difference. Well, more than one difference, but one major one is this don't work. Okay, when I first put it on, I primed the carburetor with gas, started up, run, died. Oh, well, that's odd. So I pull it out. Well, first I pull this cover off, but I could see I'm not pumping any gas up. Filled it up with gas, in this area where the sediment bowl would normally go. Primed the carburetor again, fired up, run, died, and it was still pumped full of gas down here. It just wasn't pumping at all. Well, I got to looking. Well, I looked at the box. And this kind of clued me in what I'm dealing with. This Airtex is a company, Fuel Delivery Systems out of Fairfield, Illinois. Now, this one was made in this country. Now they're making pumps in China. And that's what it says on the box. Made in China. A lot of this stuff used to be made in Mexico, which is all right. I've never had a problem with the Mexican stuff. They used to do a lot of rebuilds and stuff too. But they always worked and they're reasonably priced. Well, I used to buy these fuel pumps for like $12 to $20. Now this Chinese knockoff, well, can you call it a knockoff when it's actually their pump now? But this is $50 and a hunk of junk. They use the same pressed-in valves, which I don't like because on some of the older ones you can take a screw out, pop the valves out, and replace the valves. Same diaphragm, pop it off, replace the diaphragm. Well, they've got pressed-in valves, and I have to say, okay, the valves, even though one is pressed in crooked, because the design of the valves makes them hit up here, which it shouldn't. They're just cutting corners any place they can, but that's the way the Chinese do it, in particular if it's a spot where you ain't going to see it. But they had, the reason it wasn't working, I thought, I got to looking at it and I realized, oh my God, they got the pump assembled backwards. So there's no way it's going to pump fuel forward. It's trying to pump fuel backwards. So I turned this around, thinking, oh boy, got her now. Even though by looking at it, I started thinking, hey, this is not the pump for me. But thought I'd have her. Did the same thing. Well, at least the valves in this are good. But this one, there is something weird about the geometry of it. I honestly don't think it's doing anything. I don't think it's hitting on the cam right. I think the arm geometry is wrong. So, okay, I could possibly pull that arm out, But here I'm building a damn fuel pump. And if I'm going to build one, I should have built the right one. But, you know, because I could use this diaphragm, put this valve body, the new valve body, on the old diaphragm. But this wasn't leaking, but I'm always hesitant because I know this wasn't designed for the new fuel. And that could cause a failure in the diaphragm, which can cause you to leak gas into the oil pan, you know, because it's right there. So perhaps I can get this diaphragm out of here if the problem isn't with the length of the rod here, because that could be a problem too. It actually appears to stick up a little higher, but it's all a matter of when it actually makes contact with the camshaft and starts the up and down stuff. You know, I think that's where my problem lies. But it's just a shame that, you know, companies start making stuff in China. You know, it never works out well. You know, like I said, it's always kind of sloppily assembled, like the fact that that poppet valve was in there crooked. You know, that's not good. I mean, I don't like press-in valves, but especially ones that are pressed in crooked. But like I say, they do seem to hold. The valves seem to hold. So I think my problem, you know, when I had it assembled, now I could get it to pump manually off of the car. But as soon as I put it on the car, it does absolutely nothing. So that makes me think there's got to be something wrong, although the arm, you know, just sitting here, it looks the same. But I think it's a matter of when it actually, well, they seem very similar, but I get no action. Well, I guess I'll have to bolt this thing on without the valve body on, crank the motor over by hand and see if I'm actually getting movement on the diaphragm. But this ain't a fuel pump, this is a fuel pump kit. I'm beginning to see why they sent so many gaskets with it. You know, it came with 3 gaskets. Well, evidently they're figuring you're going to be taking it on and off a few times. But I'll make it work somehow. Like I say, I could always put this valve body on the old pump. I know that'll work. But you know, it's little things like, well, even if you pick them up, this is heavy, this is really light. You know, I don't know why, but this weighs twice as much as this piece, and it's got to be just, you know, I think they're both aluminum, but this is just cast a lot heavier aluminum. But they're going, you know, they're cutting a corner when they can. So odds are, you know, some of the old ones you could take a nut off here, and you could take the diaphragm. This is where I got to figure out how they're put together, or drive this pin out, pull the lever out. Yeah. She's a heck of a thing. But that whole deal of, you know, moving your production to China, like I say, if you can't do it here, at least do me a favor and do it in Mexico. I have a whole lot more faith in them, but the Chinese, it's just a mystery. And like, this ain't a high-tech thing, you know. You could look at one of the old ones and you should be able to make one with the right geometry. But no. So it's going to be more of a project than I wanted. I think maybe before I get too far into this, I'll go and see if I can't dig in the shed and find my old pump that I can, if I'm going to have to do that much rebuilding to it, I might as well make it the way I want it. But them Chinese, they can frustrate you.